It's another edition of Time About the Movies, and today we're taking a look at the films of February 18th, 2005. We got 4 movies to look at today, so we've got some films of noteworthiness from an adaptation of the Constantine comics. We also have a sequel to one of the classic Jim Carrey movies from the 90s, but once again, kind of like with Dumb and Dumber, this does not have Jim Carrey involved in it, and we have a movie that's mostly known for its memes. So we'll get to some of those movies a little bit later on, but let's get to the first movie we have here, the biggest new release of the weekend, which is, of course, Constantine. Based off of the character from DC Vertigo's Hellblazer series, Constantine is directed by Francis Lawrence, who gave us I Am Legend, Water for Elephants, and many of the Hunger Games sequels as of late. It also stars Keanu Reeves as John Constantine, in which he's approached by a detective, played by Rachel Weisz, who needs his help to prove that her twin sister Isabel's death was not a suicide. The dead woman was a devout Catholic, and Angela refuses to accept that she would have taken her own life. She asks Constantine for help because he has a reputation for dealing with the mystical, and in fact, he is a demon hunter whose sole purpose on Earth is to send demons back to other regions. The nether regions, if you will. John himself has been to hell, and as a young man, he committed suicide. And now that he is determined to return there on his death. Let me rephrase that again so I can say it properly. As a young man, he too committed suicide, and now knows that he is destined to return there on his death. So, yeah, okay, so got that part out of the way. But hopes that his good deeds may somehow find him a place in heaven. As he looks into Isabel's death, he realizes that demons are trying to break through to the human world, and this battle leads him into a direct conflict with Satan. And honestly, I was very surprised that I didn't end up hating this movie as much as everybody else did, because at the time, this was a very negatively reviewed film. It was a hit at the box office, but maybe not the big hit that they were hoping for, but it was not a critically successful movie in general, and I was actually really surprised when I saw it for the first time when I was doing December, and I looked at it and was just like, this actually isn't that bad in general. In fact, Constantine in general is a fun character that you can work with. They actually made a great TV series with Matt Ryan, which was on NBC, and he's kind of made that character his own because he's been returning for the various DC animated movies down the road. So I'm glad to see that character is very much still a character that's still being used to this very day. And even though I like the movie, there is a lot of things against the film that I can talk about. There are a lot of major problems. For one thing, it's the visual effects that kind of ruin the ebb and flow of it, because they really do look fake, particularly on the demons themselves. When you see the demons in this, they really do look fake, and it's hard to be scared by something that looks 100% fake. In fact, Lawrence has the same problem, I think, with I Am Legend, because he builds up these monster-like creatures, and when you see them front and center, they really do not look real by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, I think Roger Ebert kind of said it best. He said that hell looks like a post-nuclear Los Angeles created by animators with a hangover. And considering that we're going to have another movie where the visual effects in that movie look abysmal coming up a little bit later on and look even more terrifying than the creatures in here, that's not a good sign for this movie going forward. But on top of that, the plot can get way too complicated at times. We basically have 2 nicely handled stories that probably would have fell on their own merits, but they decided to throw in a bajillion 6 different subplots in this movie, and each one gets more complicated and more convoluted, and it creates a lot of major plot holes towards the end of the movie. And it's just like, why did you decide to throw these in here? It's just like, really? There's a little bit of attempt at comedy that they try to throw in there. Like, there's this whole running gag about, Constantine and his smoking habits, and it's just really unnecessary, although I'll admit the payoff at the end does work out in its favor. So I may have not liked the jokes themselves, but it at least led itself to a nice payoff at the end. The cast overall is a mixed bag. I thought Keanu Reeves was pretty good as Constantine. He may not be the same character that we know from the comics or even what Matt Ryan did in the TV series, but the movie and Reeves do a good enough job of trying to keep as much of the character from the comic in the movie's portrayal. Rachel Weisz is pretty good in here too, playing essentially Constantine's damsel in distress, which at least she doesn't sound like a whiny bitch like she did in The Bourne Legacy, because in that movie, that was a movie where it's just like, wow, you really reduced this actress to a really lackluster role in general, and in that movie at least. And I thought Peter Stormare was actually really good as Lucifer. In fact, it's one of the few times where I thought the visual effects looked really good in general. The rest of the cast, though, not so much. Tilda Swinton, Shia LaBeouf, Gavin Rossdale, Djimon Hounsou, they have all these big roles in here, and none of them really shine out or break out in the film. and they just don't feel like they were really using a lot of their talents in general that they would show in other movies. I thought the music was pretty good. Klaus Blaudet and Brian Tyler do a very good job on the musical score. It's a very mixed bag of a movie. I think it's going to be, judging by how Reeves has been in these types of films before, it could have easily been a disaster, but the film overall is trying to make an entertaining film, and it doesn't quite necessarily hit the marks it needs to hit, but it's a film that I think is done good enough to recommend it, at least for a one-time watch. I think the direction is very good. Reeves is very good in the title role. Some other good casting here and there. Some of the music is very good. And like I said, it's doing a better job than something like League of Extraordinary Gentlemen or Catwoman did. If there was a better script here to work with and better visual effects, I think the movie probably could have worked better. I'm glad I saw it, but it's not one I'm going to be rushing out to get to watch anytime soon. I'll stick with the television series. Thank you very much. But then again, it's all right for DC, because later in the summer they're going to have a movie that's pretty much going to define their legacy going forward, and we'll get to that one in the summertime. But until then, let's talk about our next movie that we have here, and that is the family comedy. It's kind of an adventure, but family comedy, Because of Winn-Dixie. So yeah, you can clearly see that's a family movie marketing in 2000. That's how most of them are marketed for the most part. But funny thing is that my sister actually has dogs that are very similar to the dog that Winn-Dixie is. I don't know if they are actually a Burger Picard like Winn-Dixie is, but I've seen dogs smile like that in real life. I think they use CG on this. I wouldn't be surprised if they use CG on it, but that actually does happen in real life. Dogs actually can smile like that. I never knew, especially that type of dog. I never knew that. But this is Because of Winn-Dixie. This is the family film directed by Wayne Wang, who gave us The Joy Luck Club, Smoke, Blue in the Face, Anywhere But Here, Made in Manhattan, movies we've talked about before on this show. Actually, his next movie will be a film I actually do like of his, Last Holiday. But in this film, it's just based off the book of the same name. Anna Sophia Robb, who actually makes her film debut in this, and has gone on to have a pretty decent career in general, but she plays a girl named Opal who moves to a new home in a trailer park. She has no friends. Her father, played by Jeff Daniels, is always doing something. He sends her to Winn-Dixie to get some food, and when she gets there, something is going on. People are chasing a dog. He jumps on a manager who tells his workers to call the pound. Opal doesn't want him to go there, so she says he's hers, and she names him Winn-Dixie after the supermarket where she found him. She goes home to ask her father if she can keep him. He lets her do so, and she makes a lot of new friends over the summer. She also almost loses Winn-Dixie in a thunderstorm at a party. They make friends with the father with the kids at the father's church, and old people smart and wise. Opal learns a lesson that you can't hold on to people who do not want to be held on to. And you see a cast that also includes Dave Matthews. You see Harlan Williams there, Cicely Tyson, Eva Marie Saint. The cast also includes Elle Fanning, Dakota Fanning's sister. Yeah, that's some of the more notable names in here. And, as far as the movie itself goes, it's fine. It's really a harmless movie in general. There's nothing really that bad about it per se. It's just a movie that's kind of like, it is what it is. Like, you see the trailer for it, you know what you're kind of getting yourself into here. It's a lighthearted family film with a really good, strong leading performance by Anna Sophia Robb, who, like I said, has gone on to star in some pretty good movies, Bridge to Terabithia, and among other things. Maybe not good movies in general, but she was pretty good in that movie. But something else of noteworthiness in this particular case is that this film was actually the last film from 20th Century Fox to be released on home video. We're kind of in that period where the VHS era is coming to an end, and slowly but surely these studios are starting to move exclusively to DVD. And this is one of the first. I believe this is one of the first ones where a studio said, we're not going to support VHS anymore after this. So, as far as I know, this was the last movie released by 20th Century Fox that made it to home video. Although I could have sworn Robots and Revenge of the Sith made it to video. Maybe Revenge of the Sith not so much, but I thought Robots did. But according to this was the last movie that, according to Wikipedia's page, it says it was the last film to be released by 20th Century Fox on video. So we're going to be getting to a couple of these movies as we get further and further into the years movies, because a lot of 2005 movies will be the last ones to hit videos, as Blockbuster Video was moving strictly to DVD. We're still a couple of years from the HD DVD and Blu-ray boom coming up in a couple of years, but Yeah, so that's a little piece of history there, I guess, for the film, I guess. But other than that, though, the film is fine for what it is. Nothing too significant, nothing too amazing, but it'll warm it'll entertain the kids, and it'll warm the parents' hearts too. So yeah, that's an example of at least a decently good family film. And then you have our next movie, which is Son of the Mask. And I'm just going to tell you right now, be afraid. Be very, very afraid. Because if you have not seen Son of the Mask, you have been warned. Okay. I've kind of already given you an idea of how I feel about this movie, but let's talk about the actual movie itself. And do I really need to? Because I think those trailers give you a good idea of what you're in for if you're gonna suffer through this. Because this movie is a sufferable movie. But Jamie Kennedy plays Tim Avery, who's a cartoonist who loves his dog Otis. Then one day Otis finds a strange green mask, and Tim puts it on, has a baby with his wife with the mask on. The baby then gets a hold of the powers of the mask. Meanwhile, Loki, played by Alan Cumming, must find the mask before Odin, played by Bob Hoskins, gets mad. I mean, what more do I need to say about this movie? This is one of the most horrifying movies I have ever seen in my entire life. Like, it's amazing that this is not on my list of the worst movies ever made. In fact, I haven't even checked that list in a while, and I'm getting ready to do like a thing on the Reviewing Network talking about my 30 least favorite movies of all time. In fact, I'm going to check right now just to see. Nope, I was completely right. This is indeed in my top 30 worst movies list of all time. This is like 27 on the list here. So, I could wait to talk more into this movie, but you know what? If anybody out there is even thinking about watching it, please don't. When I watched this movie the first time, let me tell you, I never really understood how bad of a movie it was. I really just came out of it going, okay, whatever. It's one of those movies that I saw it in theaters. I was 16. I was going to movies by myself. Any opportunity to go see a movie by myself. It was a sequel to The Mask. I'd go for it. But it's one of those movies that sticks with you for a few years until you fully realize what an absolute mess of a movie it is. And let me tell you people something. This is a mess of a movie. The original Mask is a great, hilarious comedy that perfectly lives up to the insanity of the character from the comics, as well as setting Jim Carrey as the dominant comedic actor of his time. But in this, I have no idea what the hell New Line was trying to do here. This took everything that made The Mask such a terrific movie and just ruined it. This movie just looked so stupid. It is really one of the stupidest movies I've ever seen. There was no thought, no love put into this movie at all. Nothing was put into this movie except to scare the living bejesus out of you. Even if this was aiming more for kids, this still would not be suitable for kids. Kids will be scared out of their minds out of half the shit they pull in this movie. And what's worse, this is directed by the guy that did Cats and Dogs, which was an over-the-top kids movie of its own, but at least there was restraint to it. It was harmless, it was kind of fun, and it wasn't literally trying to scare the bejesus out of you like this piece of garbage is. Nobody with brains would enjoy this movie, and no kid is going to appreciate this movie either. Instead, they're going to be shitting and peeing their pants while watching it, because good lord, it really says something when honestly I would rather watch Dumb and Dumberer again than watch Son of the Mask again. It's no wonder that Jim Carrey for the longest time said, no, I'm not doing any more sequels to this, because if he would have said yes to something like this, he would have never come back from it. He would have pulled a Sean Connery after League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, been just like, yeah, I'm done. Fuck this shit, I'm out. This movie is everything that's wrong with Hollywood and making sequels long after they're past their time. There's nothing about this movie that is worth it. Everything about it is just an ungodly mess, from the visuals to the bad casting. Jamie Kennedy's career pretty much ended with this movie in general. And it's like, what the hell were you thinking with these creepy visuals? The lame brain comedy, everything about this movie is a mess. It's an insult. It's an absolute insult of a movie. And quite frankly, what more do I got to say about it? Son of the Mask. It's just a lousy, lousy movie, and you need to avoid it like the plague. So, with that said, let's go ahead and move on to the last movie, which is Downfall, which I don't even need to show you a trailer because I think you know exactly what I'm going to bring up from this particular film. I don't think I really need to talk about the movie in general, because you know what? That meme has essentially been what everyone talks about whenever you think of this movie. And, that scene in particular seems like a straightforward scene, but, good old the internet, they are able to take the subtitles and change it into beauties like this. I mean, it got to the point where even the Cleveland show, the Family Guy spinoff, was making a parody of that particular scene. I mean, what more do I even need to say about that scene? I could just end the review right there, but I'm not going to do that. So, the story here in general is that it's set during the Battle of Berlin in World War II, where Nazi Germany is on the verge of total defeat and depicts the final days of Adolf Hitler, played here by Bruno Ganz. And it also includes a cast that includes most notably Thomas Kretschmann, who you'd see later on in stuff like King Kong and Avengers Age of Ultron. And believe it or not, the movie actually did garner some controversy because it showed a human side of Hitler, and a lot of people, you try to do a movie where you show kind of the human side of Hitler in general. In fact, I'm looking at why this was so controversial. It was the subject of dispute by critics and audience in Germany before and after its release, with many concern regarding Hitler's portrayal in the film as a human being with emotions in spite of his actions and ideologies. The portrayal sparked debate in Germany due to public publicity from commentators, film magazines, and newspapers, leading the German tabloid Bild to ask the question, are we allowed to show this monster as a human being? Which, I mean, I get why this would be very controversial, but if it's working to the film's advantage, it doesn't really bother me. I mean, I'm not saying that I'm not going to be one of those people that says like Hitler was a good guy. Like, I'm not going to be one of those people. I'm not going to be like Mark Schott who said that, or maybe I think, knowing him, Donald Trump probably has said something like that. But yeah. Maybe Hitler was a good person back in the day, but I'm not going to say that here. I'm going to leave that to you people out there to do that. And just for the fun fact that I'm going to be looking at the comments later on for this, I'm just going to go ahead and make sure I shut the comments off on this, because this could get pretty messy right away. But with this movie in particular, the movie actually is pretty good. And, it's a very memeable movie for that particular scene alone, but at the same time, the film overall is very solid. It's a very good film, a very engaging film in general, directed by a director who has not made a lot of great movies. I mean, his next movie after this was The Invasion, which was just a watered-down version of Invasion of the Body Snatchers with Nicole Kidman and Daniel Craig. And then he also did the Diana movie, which was very controversial when that came out. Not the good Diana movie, not the Kristen Stewart one, but no, the one where it was the 2013 one where it was the one with who was it? Naomi Watts, and it was basically that movie was criticized because the focus was being put more onto focusing more on the relationship with the Pakistani heart surgeon that she supposedly fell in love with, played by Naveen Andrews. But I haven't seen that. I haven't seen that movie, but I know it was very, very controversial when that came out, and most people had it on their worst of the year list. So yeah, this is probably the best film this guy has ever directed, and it's produced by Bernd Eichinger, which does not sound now like a name that's very familiar. It doesn't sound like that's a name that you'll be familiar with, but you'll know the movies that he worked on. This is the guy that produced The Never-Ending Story. He did The Name of the Rose. He did, Wrongfully Accused, the Leslie Nielsen movie, The Mist of Avalon. We talked about it on the show. Resident Evil. He's going to do Fantastic Four later in the year. He has made a lot of movies that you are very familiar with. He's actually one of the main guys behind Summon Entertainment, too. So, yeah, there's a lot of people involved in here you may not be familiar with, but everyone's going to remember this movie for one thing and one thing only, and that is because of the meme scene, which, you know what, that's still very funny in general, and, yeah, it's very funny in general. But the movie itself is a good movie. It's a very engaging film. It's a very interesting film in general, and it's a very engaging movie. Like, it's a movie that really does take a chance on itself, and in this case, it does work in the direction they're going for here. And yeah, it's a good movie. It's one I'd recommend checking out. If you can get past the memes of it and the controversies behind it, you can see that this is a competently made movie done very well, and one that I would definitely recommend you check out. So yeah, check out Downfall. Boy, that was a lot to take in this week. So we're going to wrap up February on the next episode with 3 more movies, including the movie that basically introduced the world to Tyler Perry, that's Diary of a Mad Black Woman, Wes Craven's latest film, Cursed, which, not a great movie, but the good news is it's one of Wes Craven's 2 movies in 2005 It's the bad one, but we'll get to the good one later on in the year. And we also have Tommy Lee Jones in the cheerleader comedy Man of the House. That line right there should pretty much tell you everything wrong with that movie, but we'll get to that film on the next episode, along with the Diary of a Mad Black Woman and Curse. So, thank you guys so much for watching, and if you want to see more videos like this, please hit the plays on the next page, check out the previous episode, and also don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button if you want to see more videos like this on this channel. What was I doing with my hand there? Here we go. There you go. That's what I should be doing. Hit the like and subscribe button. With that said, that's going to wrap this up. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Until then, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Take care.